During World War II, men and women were subjected to various forms of persecution and violence, including ill treatment, forced labor, starvation, deportation, humiliation, and death. However, women also faced additional difficulties related to pregnancy and abortion. Violence could be encountered in various places, including houses, streets, prisons, and concentration camps. In the occupied territories, crimes were committed mainly by Germans and their allies, Hungarians, Romanians, Italians, as well as local collaborators. Holocaust survivors often recall drunken Germans, Hungarians, and Romanians who molested women at night. Parents did everything possible to save their daughters from criminals. They hid them, dressed them in rags, cut their hair, smeared their face with soot to make it unattractive, spread rumors that their daughters had typhoid fever and other diseases. Evidence of participation in criminal acts was found in the diaries of the German soldiers themselves. For example, one of them described how he and his colleagues held a 19-year-old girl captive for 2 weeks. Descriptions of many similar crimes were presented at the Nuremberg trials. Before you continue watching, please subscribe to my channel and like it. Of course, this is optional, the main thing is sincere. From 1933 to 1945, Nazi Germany and its allies built about 40,000 camps and other places of mass incarceration. These camps were used for various purposes, among them were forced labor camps, camps for enemies of the state, and death camps. Many prisoners of concentration camps died from cruel bullying, diseases, poor conditions of detention, hunger, hard physical labor, and inhumane medical experiments. According to some reports, at least 18 million people have passed through this system. The leadership of the ghettos and concentration camps, as well as the guards, often took advantage of their power position and forced women into relationships in exchange for food or medicine. Clara, a Jewish survivor of the Kamenets-Podolsk ghetto, recalls, a policeman usually let women out of the ghetto only if they agreed to a relationship with him. Thus, hungry women agreed to a relationship only to be allowed to go to the market and buy some food. There were many such cases, and everyone in the ghetto knew about it. At the same time, some women perceived their body as an important resource for saving themselves and their loved ones. Such women could independently initiate relationships with influential men, which Myrna Goldberg called relationships for survival. Galina Klotzman, a Jewish survivor of a correctional labor camp for Jews in Antonovka, Kiev region, recalls, "There was a woman from Pyatagorsk with us. She herself agreed to a relationship with men, and she was allowed to leave the camp, and she ran away." The surviving Jew Semyon Dodik recalls that he knew a pretty Jewish girl Alia from Novaya Shitsa, who escaped from execution. In his memoirs, he emphasized that she managed to do this with the help of German soldiers, to whom she provided certain services, which she did not hide. The life of women in concentration camps was extremely difficult. As noted by historian Regina Mulheuser, shaving hair and forced undressing in concentration camps caused women to have more negative feelings than men. During these procedures in the camps and ghettos, women suffered not only from the unpleasant gazes of men, but also from the fact that men touched them. Edmund Baumwald, a Holocaust survivor from the Yanovsky concentration camp in Lviv, recalled that a member of the camp's leadership forced newly arrived Jews to undress in order to take their property. In some camps and ghettos, women were subjected to forced abortions, sterilization, and medical experiments. Separate camps and special zones inside some concentration camps were designed specifically for women. In May 1939, the Nazis opened Ravensbrück, the largest of the camps built specifically for the detention of women. By 1945, when Ravensbrück was liberated, more than 100,000 women had passed through it. In 1942, a women's camp was also organized in Auschwitz. Its first prisoners were women transferred from Ravensbrück. A women's camp was founded in Bergen-Belsen in 1944. Thousands of Jewish women from Ravensbrück and Auschwitz were also transported to Bergen-Belsen. In ghettos and camps, the Nazis drove women to forced labor. Nazi doctors often used Jewish and Gypsy women for experiments. Both in the camps and in the ghettos, women were constantly bullied. Pregnant Jewish women often tried to hide their situation, otherwise they were forced to have an abortion. At that time, the very fact of the crime against the woman demoralized and discredited the victim in the eyes of society. Many simply remained silent. The only thing the relatives of these women could do was to take merciless revenge. Some modern sources suggest that the German army is not involved in crimes against the person in the occupied territories. From the point of view of the ideology of the Nazi Third Reich, relations with representatives of the non-Aryan race were considered unacceptable. There is also a point of view that Wehrmacht soldiers went to brothels in a civilized manner and did not commit crimes against women, but this statement is a lie. During the occupation, according to the Ost Plan, the German troops had to show special cruelty to the local population in the occupied territories. There are tens of thousands of testimonies of women who suffered at the hands of German soldiers. Therefore, there is no need to deny these crimes. Women who suffered at the hands of German soldiers faced enormous difficulties when sharing their stories. Stigmatized by society, many survivors chose to hide their painful experiences, locking them in the depths of their memory. The burden of shame and the pressure of society often silenced them, leaving their stories untold for generations. In recent years, there has been a growing recognition of the need to remember and honor the experiences of these women. Thanks to the testimonies of survivors, historical research, and initiatives of activists, their stories become public. The memory of the suffering endured by these women serves as a reminder of the consequences of the war and the importance of preventing similar atrocities in the future. By telling ourselves and future generations about the past, we can work to create a world in which such violence is not only condemned, but also eradicated. Please subscribe to my channel and like it. Of course it's optional, the main thing is to sincerely